Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Nikhil Kumar. In today's video, I will show you how to run powerful NLP models like sentiment analysis and zero-shot classification using Hugging Face on nothing more than a CPU VM. And here's the best part, you won't just see the demo, you will actually understand what NLP is, what sentiment analysis means, and how Hugging Face pipelines works under the hood. So whether you are a beginner curious about AI or an experienced developer exploring Hugging Face, you will walk away with something valuable. So let's dive in. A common misconception is that you need a GPU for an AI. While GPU are great for training big models, but many NLP tasks run fine on GPU. Tasks like classifying text, analyzing sentiment, or categorizing reviews run perfectly fine on CPU. And why it's matter? Maybe you are experimenting on the cloud or you don't want to pay for expensive GPU instances. With Hugging Face, you can still do a lot on just a CPU. So before we jump into the code, let's quickly understand the basics. So what is NLP? NLP is all about teaching computers to understand and process human languages. For example, like Gmail spam filters, that's NLP. Chatbot like Alexa or Siri, that is also an NLP. And Google Translate is also an NLP. All these applications are based on NLP, that is a natural language process. So in this, we are just teaching computer to understand and process the human languages. And what is sentiment analysis? This is a common NLP task where we determine whether a piece of text is positive, negative, or sometimes neutral. Let's take an example for this. Like I love Kubernetes, that is a positive sentence. It's widely used by companies which does social media monitoring to see if people are happy or upset about a brand, customer support to prioritize angry customers, and product reviews to understand overall feedback at scale. And the best part, you don't have to train this model yourself. Hugging Face gives us access to thousands of pre-trained models. Now we understand what is NLP and what is sentiment analysis. Let's set these things up on our system. So this is our GCP instance. So first of all, let's create a virtual environment. So for that, we can use a command Python 3 -m v env and the virtual environment name. So here I am giving a name NLP-env. So it will create a virtual environment for us. You can think virtual environment as a sandbox. It keeps our project dependencies isolated so they don't conflict with the system Python or other projects. So you might be working with some other project, so it won't conflict with them. And now let's activate it. So for that we can use a command source NLP-env bin/activate. So once the virtual environment got activated, we can see NLP-env name appear on the left side of the terminal. That's how you know you are inside the virtual environment or the sandbox. Now let's install the Python dependencies. For that I am going to use a pip3 module, pip3 install transformer, and the torch module. So transformer is the Hugging Face library. It contains thousands of pre-trained models for NLP, vision, speech, and Torch is the backend deep learning framework that actually runs the model computation. And if you notice, I am not going to install the TensorFlow because PyTorch alone is enough here and works smoothly on the CPU. Let's install it very quickly. So it will take a couple of minutes to install this. Both the library got installed successfully. Now let's write our sentiment analysis script. So let's create a file vi sentiment-analysis.py. So first of all, we need to import a Hugging Face pipeline utility. For that we can use a from keyword, from transformers import pipeline. Then we need to load a pre-trained model for the sentiment analysis. So for that we can create an object called classifier, and here I'm going to use a pipeline function of the Hugging Face and specify the sentiment analysis into that. Sentiment analysis. So basically what happens in this particular line, the Hugging Face will automatically picks a default model called DistilBERT base. That model is light, fast and optimized for CPU performance. So here we are not specifying any model, we are just specifying we need to do the sentiment analysis, and the Hugging Face will automatically download the same for us. And then we need to give some statement to this. So I'm creating an object called result, and here I'm specifying the classifier object we just created, and inside that I am going to specify one statement that Kubernetes makes deployments so much easier. Here I'm just passing a simple sentence into the classifier. So in this case it's a positive sentence about the Kubernetes, and at last we need to print this result. Now our script is ready. It's very small to understand how the sentiment analysis works with the Hugging Face. Let me save and exit. Let me clear out the screen. Now to run this particular script, we can use a Python 3 and the script name. So as soon as I hit the enter, it will start downloading the model for the first time. Since it's running on the CPU, it might take a couple of seconds to complete the installation. But the Hugging Face caches the model locally, so reruns will be much faster. As you can see, it downloaded the model and it set it up the device to use CPU, and if you see, we got a result out of it. Here if you notice, label is the predicted category like positive or negative, and the score is about the confidence score of the model. Value is closer to the 1, that means model is very sure about that the sentence is positive, and yes, the sentence is positive, that Kubernetes makes the deployment is much easier. Now let's try a negative example in this. So let me edit the file and let me copy paste this and let me comment this thing out. And instead of Kubernetes make deployment so much easier, I am going to use some negative sentence here. This deployment process is so frustrating. So it's a negative sentence. So let me try to run the model again. Python 3 sentiment analysis.py. So if you notice, this time it will not download the model again. It will use a cache and give a result. So this time it gave a result pretty fast. And if you see, it gave a negative as a category, and the score is also close to 1. That means model is very sure about the output of this particular sentence, that is negative. That's a real NLP in action, powered by Hugging Face and running entirely on the CPU VM. Now for those of you who are curious about what's happening under the hood, the model we used here is the DistilBERT, a smaller and the faster version of the BERT module. It's trained on a large dataset of English sentences with positive and the negative labels. So let's understand with this particular visual, like when we pass in the text like I love Kubernetes to our model using the classifier keyword, the Hugging Face will automatically tokenize it, meaning it will convert words into numbers that the model can understand it. And the model then processes these tokens through multiple layers of the neural networks and output probabilities for each layer. And finally, the pipeline returns the label with the highest probability. While the code is very simple, if you see here, it's just a 4 or 3 lines of code here. But there's a lot of complex deep learning happening behind the scenes, like from creating a tokens, going through the multiple layers of the neural network and output the probabilities for each label. Now, sentiment analysis is very powerful, but it's limited to positive or negative. But if you want to classify text into your own categories like DevOps, finance, or sports, That's where zero classification comes in. So basically, what is a zero shot classification? In traditional ML, you need a labeled datasets for each category. Zero shot classification removes that requirement. It uses NLI, that is a natural language inference, to compare your text against labels you provide, even it has never seen them before. It works pretty well with any kind of label and adapts instantly to the new domains as well. That's why it's called zero shot. That means zero training is required to classifying the text. Now let's try to do the demo for the same. So let's go back to our VM. Let me clear out the screen and let's create a script for the same, zero-shot.py. Here as well, I am going to import the libraries from transformers, import the pipeline. Then we need to load a model, and I'm using the same object classifier here, and here I'm using the pipeline function and specifying the zero shot classification into that. Zero shot classification. So for this as well, the Hugging Face will automatically pulls the model. Then we need to provide the text to this. So I am giving a text that is Kubernetes automates container deployments and scaling. And I'm going to specify the labels as well. So I'm giving a different set of labels here in a form of list. Like one is DevOps, another is finance, and sports, and education. And I'm creating an object called result. And here I am calling the classifier object, and I am providing a text and the labels, candidate labels. So for that I am going to use the candidate underscore labels equal to labels. There's a typo here in the verb, it should be labels. What's happening here? It compares the text against labels and output its probability. And let me print the result. Our script is ready. Let me save and exit, and let's run this. Zero-shot.py. I think there's a typo in this. Transformers. It should be S transformers. Let me save and exit. For this as well, it will first download the model for the first time, and it will create a cache for the model locally. As you can see, it installing this particular model here. So it will take a couple of seconds to download it. And it's setting it up to a CPU because we are running a CPU instance. And we got a result. So this is our sentence and this is our labels. And if you notice here, it gave a score against each label. So for DevOps, it's 0.68, and for finance it's 0.11, for sports it's 0.10, and for education it's 0.09. So much closer is like 0.68, that is a DevOps, and that is the right one because Kubernetes automates containers deployments and scaling. It's a DevOps concept. So it labeled it correctly. So the model which we have used is not that much confidence, but it gave a score that is much closer to the DevOps one. Now let's try with a different example in this. So let me open this file again and give another text in this, that is Messi scored a hat-trick in the final match. And I am going to provide labels here as well. Let me copy paste this. Let me comment these things out. Let's save and exit. And let me clear the screen first, and let's run the script again. If you notice, this time it will work pretty fast because the model is already installed in this particular system and the cache is already created for the same. So if you see, it gave a score against the particular labels. So for sports, it's 0.82. It's around 82%. For DevOps, it's 0.1. For finance, it's 0.04. And for education is also 0.02. So that means 82% is for the sports, and that is a correct one because Messi scored a hat-trick in the final match. That is a sports category. Now let's understand what's really happening inside the zero-shot classification. So we start with the premise, the original text, like Kubernetes automates deployment. The model then generates a hypothesis by turning each label into a sentence. For example here, like this text is about DevOps, this text is about finance, or this text is about sports. Then the model checks if the premises supports each hypothesis using the NLI, that is natural language inference. It assigns the probability, like how strongly the text matches each label. And finally, it picks the label with the highest probability, like that is the DevOps in our case. So it gave a probability to each of the labels, and which is the highest one, that is a DevOps. So it gave that. So zero shot is basically a reframing classification as a reasoning problem, asking which label best fits this text. There are different types of real use cases for the zero shot classification. Like it can be used for the customer support, like for auto tagging tickets like billing, tech, and account. It can be used for the feedback system, like categorizing reviews like price, quality, or the services. It can be used for the news as well, like for sorting the articles like sports, politics, or the technology or the education. And it also can be used for the DevOps for logging, like classifying logs for error, warning, or info. And that's it for today. We have learned two powerful NLP tasks, and both are running on the CPU. That first is sentiment analysis for emotions and zero shot classification for custom labels. We learned what NLP is, how the sentiment analysis work, and how Hugging Face pipeline make it super simple. This proves you don't always need GPUs to explore AI as well. In the next video, we will containerize these models and deploy them on the top of Kubernetes. So if you found this helpful, hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more tutorials like this. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.